What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moments Smack Talk podcast. It is time to talk about the WWE Super ShowDown 2020 event that just ended a few minutes ago. And I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. And I'm flying solo in this edition for a couple of reasons. One of them being that Callum didn't get a chance to watch more than the last match, and another one, Rob's a little preoccupied, and another one is also I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling like I don't have a whole lot to say about this event, and kind of wanted to give them a little bit of a break. We've been doing lots of podcasts and stuff like that too, so I kind of figured I would just kind of keep it a little casual, try not to get all riled up, that kind of a thing. But I invite you all to chime in with your thoughts, and the way that you can do that the best is if you head on over to the YouTube channel, if you're not already there, and to leave a comment below. Now, if you are doing that, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, and while you're doing that, ring that little notification bell. Then you'll be aware of whenever I post new videos up on here, and if you're also so inclined, hit that like button on the video too, because that's going to help out quite a bit. Now, you may be listening to this on the audio-only platforms like Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Google, whatever, all these different variations of that. On those, you can't leave comments, but if you don't want to leave a comment on the YouTube channel, then leave a comment on the page on smarkoutmoment.com. There's multiple pages you can leave comments on, and just, tell me what you think, because I am curious what other people have to say about this. And I will also preface something about my point of view of this as keep in mind, I'm tired. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, which, I mean, it's kind of normal for me, but at the same time, I really just am not feeling it today. And, you know, that might play a factor into me not being as much into some matches that maybe were actually a little bit better than what I would give them credit for. However, if you're expecting this to be as big of a rant as the crown jewel one that happened with Brock Lesnar beating Braun Strowman, I'm not gonna go crazy. Not just gonna flip out and pull a Jim Brewer from Half Baked type of thing or something like that. But I do want to know, man, who's coming with me. Shout out to anybody who's seen that movie. No, I mean, it's not a matter of, oh, this event was so bad. It's more so, this event was so bland. And I tried to keep track of more notes than I normally do. Usually, when I'm going through a pay-per-view, I don't have the luxury to really keep a whole lot of notes, because for anybody who doesn't know, I'm not only writing up the quick results on Smark Out Moment, I'm usually writing some stuff up for wrestling news, and I'm usually doing stuff for Bleacher Report. So it's hard to kind of keep track of all the little notes along the way. This time around, I did something that I've done a couple times in the past for smaller shows like Starrcade and all that, where I just sort of wrote down my running commentary. So I'm going to look back on that now, and hopefully that'll play a little bit of a factor into me remembering some of these elements to this. I'm not going to read it verbatim, of course, because you can go to eWrestling News and check that out. But we started off this whole thing with pre-show. That's kind of the point. Pre-show is pre-show. And in typical fashion, it was the whole 45 minutes worth of people talking, and not anything that they were talking about really mattered. It was Scott Stanford and Charlie Caruso and David Otunga in the Connecticut studio, and they do the whole thing in Stanford, for anybody who doesn't know, because it's easier to just have them in Stanford than to ship them out, because why would you bother, at that point? Like, why send 3 people and set up a studio in Saudi Arabia when you could just do it there and not have to spend the money on the travel and not have to worry about all that kind of stuff? So I don't dislike that. That's not something that it's like, they should have made it on the set of that I don't care about. What I do care about is the same thing that I care about with every single one of these. It's pointless. If you've been watching the shows, which you should be, WWE should want you to watch every bit of WWE programming possible. And if you watch it, you're not rewarded, because you're just beat over the head with the same recap footage and stuff. If you don't watch it, you arguably don't care about it anyway, so you're not going to pay attention to the pre-show. So it's a waste for somebody like me, and I'm the only type of person who watches it anyway, so it's really not doing anybody any service whatsoever. Um, and then we had the Viking Raiders against the OC, another thing that is not doing any service to anybody whatsoever, and a waste, because there's no build to this. They serve no purpose. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to help out the OC in the long run. It's certainly not going to help out the Viking Raiders. And during this whole pre-show, they were having a lot of audio issues. There were these microphone things happening. I don't know what it was. At first, I thought it was like that Cole had accidentally like hit his headset a little bit, but instead it ended up being the weird glitchier sounds. And then when they cut away to this Ricochet promo, there was this audio leak from Charlie and them where it was like baby and wait, oh wait, or something like that. And um, that just kind of seemed like an extra little bit of crappiness on top of the pre-show. So I didn't like the match all that much. It was, I guess, fine if I wouldn't have seen it a million times already, but it's not fresh, no build, so I don't care. It's not going to mean anything. And again, it's the type of thing that if you would have told me that that's all that would have happened, and if I wouldn't have to watch that stuff for my job, I would have much rather had slept that extra hour, And that might have actually helped me out with the rest of the card because I might have been a little bit more refreshed and I might have been, I'm watching NXT last night and Dynamite and doing all this kind of stuff and whatever. You go to bed real late, even for somebody like me who doesn't sleep a whole lot. You go to bed late and then you're just, I don't know. They don't think these things through for some way. Well, to be honest, they don't care. That's the thing. Watch NXT if you want to. Watch this if you don't want to. Watch it later if you don't want to. They're getting paid for the show anyway, so that's what they really care about. But for somebody like me, it's exhausting, and I just didn't have the energy for this whole pre-show. It just didn't do anything for me. And we moved over to the Tuwaiq Trophy Gauntlet match, starting things off, and I did not see this coming the way that they had this. We talked before about the idea that it seemed like the most logical progression of things was Bobby Lashley and R-Truth, and then Rey Mysterio comes in, and then Rey Mysterio beats Lashley, or maybe R-Truth beats Lashley, and then somebody like an Andrade beats him, and then Rey Mysterio comes in, and they kind of run the gauntlet like that. Instead, Truth beats Lashley, then Truth beats Andrade because their heads collide and he just kind of falls on top of him. Then Truth beats Erick Rowan by DQ because Rowan used the steel steps. And I'm thinking to myself, is this happening because it's making Vince chuckle? Or is this happening because this is their roundabout way of pushing R-Truth without actually having R-Truth beat people? And, there is a 24 special with R-Truth it's already aired at this point, most likely. Well, by the time you're listening to this, it's definitely already aired. But I haven't watched that yet because I'm trying to record this, while that's going on and everything. So I haven't watched that yet. But maybe part of it was that. Maybe part of it's just them giving R-Truth a little pat on the back because he's been around for so long. Or maybe Andrade lost because this was a little bit of a punishment for his wellness policy violation. I don't know. It just seems kind of strange. And they had AJ Styles beat R-Truth, and he's doing a bunch of dancing, and I don't understand what that was all about either. Backstage, they do this whole thing with Rey Mysterio and the OC, where the OC had attacked Rey Mysterio. And I think that this is the case, but I'm not entirely sure. I really hope that they filmed this backstage at Raw, because Rey Mysterio didn't come out. There was no need for him to fly over to Saudi Arabia. And they end up having The Undertaker come out, and he beats, after a long, long entrance, which of course, it's The Undertaker, he chokeslams AJ Styles one time, and he beats him. And your Tuwaiq trophy goes to The Undertaker, who pretty much just stares at it. There's no, celebration thing. It doesn't really matter. He doesn't even take it with him, that kind of thing, which defeats the purpose of the Tuwaiq trophy, number one. It's not like this is going to be the type of thing where people are like, that buried AJ Styles, because he lost to The Undertaker. Ultimately, it's not going to matter, but at the same time, Doesn't really make me super duper excited for their match at WrestleMania because it makes me kind of think that maybe they didn't want to do anything more than that because they can't do too much more than that. Now, if they would have done more than that, if they would have wrestled a whole match, I wouldn't have enjoyed that because I would have thought you're giving the match away and all that. So I prefer this outcome more than the idea of them actually doing the match here and then just doing a repeat match. But I'll tell you what I would have liked even more than that. For AJ Styles to win the Tuwaiq trophy, get the whole celebration thing, and then for The Undertaker to come out, like we were talking about. You get the same chokeslam spot without the awkwardness of The Undertaker winning a trophy that he doesn't care about, that nobody else is going to care about. I think that that's a mistake. Just because something is better than the alternative doesn't mean that there's not still an alternative that's better than what we got. So I think that that was a wrong call. A couple notes that I had written down during this was, did you know that this trophy was prestigious? Because they sure as hell made a point to keep telling you that. The prestigious 2-week trophy, it's prestigious, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Not a fan at all of Lana's outfit. That's going to go on my list of worst potential outfits for the year. Disappointed that Zelina Vega wasn't there. Lana came out. But then again, Lana didn't even need to go out, so why did they even ship her with the rest of the crew? They could have just saved on that plane ticket too. I thought it was funny that The Undertaker didn't even take off his hat and his coat. And somebody in the crowd had a sign that said, Riyadh for WrestleMania. No thanks. No, I don't think that that's a good idea. We moved over to John Morrison and The Miz winning the SmackDown Tag Team Championship from the New Day. Lots of pyro. Didn't expect Big E to kick out of the skull-crushing finale. To be honest, I didn't like this match as much as I was hoping I would. And this is one of the ones that I'm going to potentially blame on me being tired, because maybe if I would have watched this with a little bit more energy, I'd think differently. But you could tell a distinguishable difference between the pop that happens with AJ Styles and with Rey Mysterio and with The Undertaker versus the way that the crowd was interacting with this match. And it's not that there's like some noise vacuum, because you heard the pops earlier. They just weren't as invested. And that was the same for pretty much the rest of the night, other than the big names. So that kind of killed it a little bit for me. They were chanting "This is awesome" at one point, but I just wasn't really seeing it. And even though I'm very glad that John Morrison and The Miz won the tag team titles, and for that matter, of course, you should know by now, I'm a big fan of the New Day. New Day is one of my favorite tag teams of all time, period. And John Morrison and The Miz is one of my favorite tag teams. So I was going to be okay with either of these winning as far as just like the superstars, but I think that that was the right call. Morrison and The Miz win the tag team titles, and you can transition to other feuds with like the Usos getting involved and the New Day sticking around and all that. But if they would have kept it on the New Day and then tried to just pull the trigger a little bit later on, it would have been a mistake too. I wouldn't have liked it if they would have gone with tomorrow on SmackDown that the titles change hands, or if they would have waited for Elimination Chamber, because then you're just telling people we're going to do that again, but wait. And that's not good storytelling. So they did make the right call. But the ending was weak. Kofi tries to do this roll up. It doesn't go all that well. And then Morrison very weakly hits Kofi in the chest with a chair. And just blah. Like, I remember I mentioned at the beginning of this, everything was just so bland. That was one of the most bland ways to end that. It's not even like a hit you over the head with something type thing. It's just this light tap to his upper torso, and that doesn't do it for me. I don't want people to start going into chair shots in the head and being horribly unsafe or anything, but at least that had like some oomph to it, and I still do think, I mean, I'm not the authority for this, I'm not a medical practitioner or anything, but I would assume you could do the chair shot to the head thing with the people holding their hands up and they're just hitting the hands, and that would make it look like something, and these chair shots to the stomach are bad enough as it is, and this was a bad one of a bad thing. Disappointed in that. You can't even say that I'm disappointed in Angel Garza versus Humberto Carrillo because I've been talking trash about this for months at this point. I do not enjoy watching Humberto Carrillo. He is one of my least favorite people on the roster, which the thing that's more upsetting to me about it is how much they keep pushing him because it's just not translating to me. I'm not a big fan of, say, Danny Burch or, um, I don't know, The Hunt or Raul Mendoza. Give or take, there's a lot of people. There's like, I don't know, 200 something performers in WWE right now, between NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, Raw, SmackDown, that kind of thing. Out of those 200 or whatever names, there's probably a good 40, 50 people, maybe, if you count the developmental crew, that I'm just not into. But most of them don't have that kind of push that Carrillo has, where they're not trying to beat me over the head with this idea that I should be super, super into Steve Cutler. He wrestles once in a while, and that's about it. In Carrillo, they seem to be desperately trying to make him be something, and the crowds are just not into it, and I'm not into it. And I might be less into it than even the crowds are, but the crowds are just bored out of their minds, it seems. And we just saw this match. It just happened 3 days ago on Raw, and it's happened multiple times before that. There's just no point. Now, Garza won their last match. He won this one. What's the change? The dynamic doesn't shift at all. It's just the same thing. So again, you cut out all these minutes and you just make the pay-per-view end earlier, I would have been happier. Normally, if I like something, I want more of it. If you ignore calories, for instance, and you give me a really good chocolate cake and you say, do you want one slice? And if I'm like, hey, if it's 0 calories, I want as many slices as I can eat because it's good. And on a movie, for instance, certain movies, I would rather watch the extended version of it. Terminator 2, my favorite movie of all time. There's an extended version of that movie where you can add in the deleted scenes that they did. Kyle Reese is in the movie, and there's this kind of thing, and there's this extended take. My preferred version of Terminator 2 is the extended version of it because that content is good, and I want more of the good stuff. Give me more good, essentially. Don't just give me more, because more for the bad is worse than if it wasn't there. So this actually really hurt the pay-per-view for me because at this point I had gone from tired to tired and frustrated. I didn't want to watch this match, which hurt then in turn the Seth Rollins and Murphy against the Street Profits match that followed this because I couldn't get into it. I was just so not interested in the Garza and Carrillo match that I found myself just wanting to be distracted. I'm working on multiple things at the same time. I'm multitasking all the time and all that, but usually I can, if a match is good enough, it's caught my attention. This wasn't good enough to get my attention and break through that barrier. Again, maybe if I watched this at another time and it ends up being a really, really good match that I was just not in the right mindset for, then that would be a different story. But, I'm watching it live and it's not doing it for me. So that's all I can give you. And you know what? Realistically, I'm not going to have the time to rewatch this. So this is probably just going to go down to me as a match that wasn't all that great. It was still better than some of the other ones, though, so it's a thumbs up, I guess, in that regard. I like the ending with the stomp. It's nothing special, but whatever. Really quickly, before I move on, I want to toss out a little plug for you guys. If you do want me to rewatch things and watch things for the first time or something like that, take advantage of the Patreon. Now, the best way to do that, if you want to specifically hone in on something, is the Pick Your Poison tier, because that is the one where you get to request something and you've paid for it, so you get it, that kind of a thing. So, if you're like, man, I really want you to watch this one match from this one pay-per-view or something and do like a fan outs table of it, or If you really want us to, say, do the first edition of Missed the Smark, which we haven't done yet, but that one is a segment that's going to revolve around the idea of myself or Callum or Rob watching something that we have never watched before, that we're told at the very least that it's very good or very bad. Something that's sort of like, oh man, you haven't seen that? You got to watch that. Like that kind of thing. We haven't done that yet. We haven't had the time to. But maybe you're like, guys, I really want you to do that as soon as possible. Or maybe you really, really want us to do a Superstar Scores for somebody. Or you really want us to do another edition of Play the Game. Or, another article type thing. It doesn't have to be a podcast. It can be article based too. So keep that in mind. If you've got the change to be able to do that, spare change, and you want to toss it our way, it's greatly appreciated. But everything is greatly appreciated, even if it's $1. And I keep saying this over and over again, but I really want to drive home the point. Every dollar matters. And the more people that donate $1, the less that anybody would theoretically need to donate $2 or something like that. And it all goes to helping me find more time to do things on Smark Out Moment, because you take the people that are subscribed to this YouTube channel. If everybody donated $1, I'd use that money to only be working on Smark Out Moment. No more of the other stuff, no more freelance work. So you guys would get at least 2-3 more podcasts a week. You'd get more articles. You'd get better articles. I'd be able to pay a staff of people. You'd get better video content, better audio, all the other kind of things that go along with that. That's if everybody that was subscribed donated $1 a month. It's not getting extra cheese on your pizza once. Keep that in mind. But you do have the Dark Cast here for $10 or more, and that is Patreon exclusive episodes. I don't know when we're going to do the next one of those, but since Rob and Callum are not a part of this podcast, maybe we'll get something involved with that. And there's also the mailbag priority tier, which you can pick our brains about things when we're not doing the mailbag, because we do them quarterly now. So keep that stuff in mind too. That's enough plugs right now. I know, Patreon, skip, all that kind of crap. Where do we go from here? We went to Mansour versus Dolph Ziggler. They did a little glitch thing again at the beginning of this. They've been teasing this. I don't know really what it is. It seems like people keep saying that it's Killer Cross, but I know nothing about Killer Cross. And it is kind of strange to me that they would do this on SmackDown and then on NXT and then on Super ShowDown with a SmackDown guy. So is this going to be the type of thing that he is not a part of any particular roster and he kind of is cross-branded? Is it two separate things and they just happen to be somewhat similar? I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Why are they doing this clock thing in NXT and then this glitchy thing on the main roster or whatever? Who knows? Mansour, though, beats Dolph Ziggler, and the match was okay. Not as good as the Cesaro one, but it's fine. A step in a better direction for some things. I thought it was funny that they bothered to put Robert Roode out there and immediately sent him out of the ringside area. He was ejected from there with almost no time. The bell didn't even ring yet. So why ship him over? Something, what's going on? I also, here's a random ass note. Go back and watch this match. At one point in there, this is after Roode gets ejected, somebody in the front row hands this paper bag, this big paper bag filled with stuff to this like little kid or something. That looked weird to me. Like, I don't look at people in an arena and picture that I'm going to see a paper bag filled with stuff at some point. It looked like a grocery bag almost. And, when you buy merch, for the most part, I mean, I don't know about in Saudi Arabia, maybe that's the difference. When you buy merch, it tends to come in some kind of like a WWE bag or like a little plastic bag or something like that. This was just like a bag from like, I don't know, like Home Depot or something like that. It just seemed, or Walmart. Well, Walmart, they get plastic bags even. So what the hell would this paper bag be from? Some mom and pop store or something? I don't know. The whole thing just seemed weird to me. And this is one of those things where why was I distracted with this instead of just watching the match? Because the match, even though it was on the better side, it still didn't keep my attention enough to take my attention away from this guy in the crowd just handing in his kid a bunch of crap in there. It didn't look like WWE merch either inside, so I don't know. Just take a screenshot of that or something and let me know what you think, 'cause I'm curious. Where do we go from here? We went to the WWE Championship match, if you can call it a match. Brock Lesnar retaining successfully over Ricochet in a complete and utter destruction scenario. We talked about this ahead of time, the idea that Ricochet, if you were going to book it in a way to not completely kill him, he could at least get a couple moves in, but we didn't really expect that. He didn't get a single move. He jumped towards him. He got swatted away like a insignificant fly. Brock Lesnar tossed him around and he beat him. So, very clearly, WWE's mentality was the way that it has been many times in the past. Brock Lesnar beat Kofi Kingston in one move because their priority was give somebody something to talk about, put Lesnar over strong, get it done. Who cares? It doesn't matter that it's Kofi. I mean, that's realistically, that's what it is. If WWE cares enough to make sure that somebody doesn't look bad in their loss, then they go out of their way to make sure that they don't look bad. Clearly, WWE didn't care about Kofi Kingston losing in that fashion. It just didn't matter. So they were just like, well, sometimes you have a bad day, that kind of thing. And clearly in this scenario, Ricochet doesn't matter because their only value heading into this was let's build up Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. And now, yeah, that is the WrestleMania match. And Ricochet is not as important right now as Drew McIntyre. But it's still always disheartening when you see something and you go, you know what? If you gave me the writing job, I could figure out a way to have your cake and eat it too. Because here's my issue with Ricochet taking this loss. Yes, Brock Lesnar beating the crap out of Ricochet helps Brock Lesnar look strong. But when does Brock Lesnar ever not look strong? Lesnar is one of the most protected people in WWE history. He has beaten legends as if they're nothing. He wins most of his matches one-sided the entire time within moments. He has had the WWE or the Universal Championship nearly the entire time that he has been back in WWE. This guy has still not fully put over Roman Reigns even, of all people. He lost to The Undertaker from The Undertaker doing a low blow on him after he had beaten the streak. This guy wrecked half of the people on the Royal Rumble, and you don't need to prioritize making him look strong. He's never going to look anything but super strong. Ricochet, on the other hand, he is somebody who's struggling. He has not been at the top of the card. And if you could have given him a couple moves, just a couple, just 3 strikes even, he would have looked considerably better. But they think of this as black and white. It's 100% or it's nothing. You just have to go all the way or you can't do it at all. It's almost as if they have a one-track mind with things. And if they've got something in mind, like I want to push blank, it's tunnel vision. They can only see that. So right now, they're looking at this, I guarantee you, they're looking at this as, well, yeah, Brock Lesnar looked super strong and he beat the crap out of Ricochet, and people are going to be pissed about that, but that's good that they're pissed, because for some reason it's good if your audience is annoyed. And not annoyed in the way of like, grr, I want Brock Lesnar to get beaten. It's more of annoyed of like, oh my God, can you just fucking beat this guy? Like that kind of thing. That's not the right type of heat. This is X-Pac heat, which X-Pac is better than that, so I don't know why we call it that, but you know what I mean. But in their mind, they're like, yeah, people are going to be pissed that Brock Lesnar did this, and that's going to make it all that much better when Drew McIntyre beats him. That's if he beats him, by the way, because remember, this has happened before, and then Brock Lesnar wins, and then you just keep going, yeah, but the next one's going to be, and the next one's going to, and the next one's going to, and for 17 fucking years. But the issue with this is they're thinking about that. They're not thinking about the idea that Ricochet wasn't a strong contender going into this. They bypassed him entirely on the build. Like, he just did not matter. He was completely insignificant. They wrote him off as completely insignificant in the match, And what they're going to do is they're going to make this mistake. AJ Styles lost to The Undertaker with a chokeslam. He is fighting Ricochet on Monday Night Raw. Guarantee you, Ricochet is not going to win that match against AJ Styles because AJ Styles is the one that needs to win to offset the Undertaker loss, which means that Ricochet is now going to lose again on Monday Night Raw. How are they going to follow that up? Is he going to win something? No. He is going to spend the next couple of weeks being a completely pointless addition to the WrestleMania card, just dissolved into nothingness. And then once it comes around to what do we do with Ricochet at WrestleMania, he's just going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He's probably not going to win it. Now, winning it, that could be a way to get him to change things around, but they're going to go with whatever other thing because they're going to get distracted too. That's the thing. On the road to WrestleMania, WWE gets distracted. They try to push somebody around February or so, and then around March, they ignore that because they just ignored some other things on the way, and they have to rush. Like, you think that they're going to pay attention to, we got to rehab Ricochet while they're trying to build Sasha and Bayley, for instance, if that is the direction that they go? Because they ignored the Sasha and Bayley thing leading all the way up to this, and they're going to have to prioritize that. So then somebody like Ricochet gets pushed off on the side. And instead of just keeping track of these things, just having like a script supervisor backstage that can go, but guys, we should probably do something with Ricochet because you can get away with doing that. You can put him on Monday Night Raw, give him a couple wins, and it can offset that. They're just not going to. So he'll be another random name in the Battle Royal, and he won't win the Andre either. And then by the time we get past WrestleMania, Ricochet is going to be a generic mid-carder. And when WWE's fans aren't invested in him, WWE Creative is going to go, well, how come they don't care about this Ricochet guy? And it's going to be like, well, because you killed him, So, yeah, I'm giving a little bit too much time to this when it's an obvious Lesnar win. We all saw this coming, and all this is not, the slightest bit surprising. But at the same time, I wanted to express that opinion. Very quickly, I want to give another plug here in the meantime. I mentioned before, if you want to support the channel, hit up the Patreon. But another way to support the channel is the merchandise shops. We've got TeePublic and Redbubble. So if you want to pick up a t-shirt or you want to pick up anything else along those different kinds of merchandise product options and all the different designs that are out there, TeePublic, Redbubble, Smark Out Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and a Mango Tees. Go ahead and check them out. I mean, our steel cage match, King Corbin against Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns wins. I've said all I need to say about this. The feud should have ended at TLC, and when it didn't, it should have ended at Royal Rumble. And this is not the type of match that they should have gone with because they are not in-ring performers in the way that you want to lock them in the cage and have them just, burn the house down in the ring, because they didn't. And they have the whole thing happen, and a Superman punch with a steel chain is how this ends. Pretty inconsequential. It's you drag this out for 4 months or whatever just to have it end like this, and at least it's done. I really have nothing else more to say about that. I made the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Bayley retaining against Naomi. I really have nothing to say about this. It's fine in some spots, weak in some other spots, better than good in some spots, but nothing that stands out to me. It's just sort of, again, bland, a little uninteresting. You don't need to watch it if you missed it, that kind of a thing, but not horrible. So I can't really crap on it. I will say it's a little bit weird that Naomi had a full bodysuit thing underneath, and it seemed like Bayley did too, but they still decided that they needed to put a t-shirt on. So now that's these two and Lacey Evans and Natalya. They made them wear t-shirts. And I'm curious why that's the case. Like, do they have to wear t-shirts? Why can't they get away with the full body suits like Sasha Banks did? Because that covers look, politics, religion, all that other kind of stuff aside, I don't understand the idea that it's like you got to cover up every little thing. If your neck is showing, then I don't understand that. But that's another discussion for another day. But still, even keeping that in mind, if you feel for some reason that women should cover up everything for, I don't know what your beliefs are, why do they need to have it be a t-shirt specifically instead of just, I don't know. It just seems kind of weird to me. The ending could have gone a lot better. Bayley wraps up Naomi's foot in her shirt. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. And she tries to like ram her head into the mat. And it just, like, I liked the idea, but they didn't pull it off. So, yeah, thumbs down when it comes to that. But we didn't get a random title change for that, so I guess that's a step in the right direction, even though I don't really like Bayley as champion, and I just kind of want to move on, you know? So I'll move on with this segment too. And before I wrap it up with the Universal title thing, I will toss another plug out there, fanboysanonymous.com, my geek culture website where I do movie review content and any other kind of content with the superhero genre, with movies, with TV shows, sometimes with video games and some other things like that. And most recently, I put up a review of Superman Red Sun, but I also wrote up something that is kind of like a look into the future potentially, but it's also a fan fiction type of thing. It's my pitch for what Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movies should be. So if you checked out Sonic the Hedgehog, which by the way, put a movie review up of that on the YouTube channel on Fanboys, so check out that review point. But if you are interested in that, check out the pitch. It's a Fanboys follow up of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and 3. Go on over the website, fanboysanonymous.com, follow the Facebook and Twitter, hit that button on hit that subscribe button, I should say, on the YouTube channel, follow all that other kind of stuff. Just, show Fanboys Anonymous the same type of love that you do with Smark Moment. And if you want me to do more things with Fanboys Anonymous, remember there's a Patreon for that too. So if you want a fan tracks, audio commentary track, or if you want some more of the article stuff, because believe me, I am sitting on a ton of content that I want to do. Even just this Fanboys follow-up thing that I did with Sonic, I had pitch ideas for Incredibles 3, for Kick-Ass 3, or how would I do my own reboot or my own Terminator 3 or something like that. I've got how would I fix the sequels for the Star Wars movies. I got so much stuff that I've never been able to tap into because I just don't have the time. So yeah, donate to the Patreon, and the more that happens, the more time I can dedicate towards Fanboys Anonymous. So then we got our main event, Bray Wyatt against Goldberg for the Universal Championship, and Goldberg wins. He does a couple spears, just barely picks him up for a jackhammer, if you can call it that, and he wins. And I had said on the wrestling news, it's going to be really awkward whoever beats Bray Wyatt for that championship, and they have to hold up that ugly masked version of the title. And what do? They give Goldberg the blue title so he doesn't have to hold that up. I thought that was really funny. Bray Wyatt pops back up. He makes the lights go off, and he retreats. So, yeah. I don't know how to feel about this. Because we talked a little bit about this ahead of time, of course, but I mean, this means that Goldberg either defends the Universal Championship at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns, or he defends it against John Cena. And that means that the other person fights Bray Wyatt. I don't know if any of those are the right decisions. I've crapped on Bray Wyatt enough. You guys know by now. I do not think that Bray Wyatt is capable of having these great matches. I don't think that the character is all that fantastic. And I didn't like the idea of him being the Universal Champion and all that. But at least in that capacity, if you go back to my fantasy booking WrestleMania thing, I was like, you know what? Plenty of other people like him. If I were booking things, I'd probably give them the benefit of the doubt, and I would go with him as the champion and doing the whole thing like that. But this is not the same type of scenario. Bray Wyatt beating people leading up to this point and then losing to Goldberg. It's Goldberg, so it's not like that kills Bray Wyatt or anything. But you mean to tell me that Bray Wyatt versus either John Cena or Roman Reigns is going to matter as much now? It's not. It's just not going to. Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. Oh, I'm going to take you to the dark side like I did a couple WrestleManias ago. We've seen it. Who cares? Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns. Oh, I'm going to take you to the dark side or whatever. It's just an upper mid-card match at that point. There's no purpose for it. Roman Reigns beats him. The end? That kind of thing? Okay. Well, why isn't that for the title then? Because if you're doing that and then you're doing John Cena Goldberg, the only real hook is John Cena winning the 17th world title. Now, I'm totally all for John Cena winning that 17th world title. I've said it before. I think that he should do that. I think that he not only deserves it, but I also think that that blue championship would go well with John Cena too. I mean, it sounds kind of like superfluous and stupid to just be like, oh, as superficial as like that belt will look good on that guy, like that kind of thing. But that is partially true. And I can see that being a draw for some things. The match isn't going to be good, no matter what. Goldberg versus Reigns, that wouldn't be good. Goldberg versus Cena, that's not going to be good. Goldberg versus Bray Wyatt wasn't going to be good. Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns wouldn't have been good. Bray Wyatt versus John Cena is not going to be good. Bray Wyatt and Goldberg are the two elements to this that aren't really going to be good. So, in any scenario, I'm just not all that into it. And we're not going to know until at least tomorrow. John Cena is going to be on SmackDown, so if he says he's going to be in the Elimination Chamber, then we can assume that Bray Wyatt is fighting Roman Reigns, and John Cena wins the Elimination Chamber and fights Goldberg. But if he's not, then we can assume that what's going to happen instead, and this is what I think's more likely, John Cena is going to fight Bray Wyatt. Roman Reigns is going to be in the Elimination Chamber. He's going to be in there with Braun Strowman, Shinsuke Nakamura, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, and King Corbin. Reigns will win the Elimination Chamber. Reigns will challenge Goldberg. John Cena will fight Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Bray Wyatt will beat John Cena at WrestleMania. I'm going so far as to say that. And Bray Wyatt will be the first person to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Yeah, post WrestleMania. That's where I'm thinking that they're going. And I got a feeling that both matches at WrestleMania aren't going to be all that great. And the Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt match to follow won't be all that great. And when I say it, people will say, you don't fucking like anything. And then when it ends up not working out, then they're going to go, well, you didn't say that. Yeah, that kind of thing. But whatever, I'm used to that kind of thing by now. So I will say, though, remember how I said that Bray Wyatt really wasn't going to amount to all that much? Huh? Well, yeah, look at that. Look what happened. Not that I wanted it to happen. I wanted to be proven wrong, but it is nice once in a while to be proven right, even when it's just you saying that you don't trust WWE to do something as good as you think that it could be done. So, ultimately, what is Super Showdown 2020? It is a bland event where I kind of wish I didn't have to watch it, and I can't really judge whether or not there are any positives that came out of this because we're not going to know until after WrestleMania at the very least. So we'll look back on this in hindsight. We'll see. Maybe this is the worst thing that they could have done this year. Maybe this leads to some really good things. I don't know. There's potential both ways. I don't know. So we'll figure that out down the line. But again, I want you to tell me what you have to say about these. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Whatever it is, drop a comment below. Tell me your thoughts. And you'll be hearing from us next up with the AEW Revolution pay-per-view, which is happening on Saturday. I have much more faith that that is going to be a great pay-per-view compared to this one. So hopefully the three of us will get on, we'll be talking about stuff, and it'll be a completely different scenario. We'll do that, of course, after the show. Live coverage during the show on smark.moment.com, reviews and everything up afterward. Again, hit that subscribe button and all the other kind of things that you should be following, and then you'll be aware of when we get that up. But until then, I will see you next time. Adios, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and I'm being counted out.